Welcome back. We took a short break. You are listening to the Lianna Alvarez Show, Las Vegas Real Estate, The Insider's Edge, here on KLAV 1230 AM radio, the talk of Las Vegas. Here with Craig Stone, where we've been talking about estate planning. Just before break, we're talking about that, checkup, that personal checkup workbook that obviously we're listening to all of you out there, which is a huge, benefit to the show and being able to, really address and assess, what you have going on within your own personal estate. Something we talked about in the last segment that we were going to, kind of wrap back up to was, what are death taxes?
Yeah, that's a name that is politically charged, thanks to the Democrats and the Republicans. But basically, a death tax is a special tax that they charge on the total value of all your assets when you pass away. Now, the laws have changed over the last 2 or 3 years, and so unless you have more than $5.34 million per person, or a little over $10 million for a husband and wife, you don't have to worry about death taxes for the most part.
Okay.
But it is still something that we take a look at, because even clients that don't fall in that category now, today, we have to look at what we think their wealth is going to be over their life expectancy, or if they get a sudden windfall. If they hit the jackpot here in town, or
the lottery.
If there's a personal injury and they get an award or a judgment, and all of a sudden their wealth skyrockets. So that's something that we do help monitor. The death taxes. It's one of those unfortunate taxes that you got taxed on your income,
right?
You got taxed on your assets when you sold them, and now you get to pay another tax when you die.
Oh, lovely. Something to look forward to in your death.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. And then kind of just going over, switching gears, we're talking about kind of personal estate planning. Let's talk about it in regards to investors. I mean, we have so many investors out there that come into the market, whether within real estate, I see them, whether it's on an individual property, you have one investment property, or many of you out there have multiple investment properties with rental income and all that. How does that apply into estate planning? Yeah,
that's a big issue, because once you expand beyond holding property just for your personal use, if you have rental property or speculative property, then we get into issues of risk management. Because if you have a rental property and there's a slip and fall and the tenants sue you, you don't want your personal assets to be exposed. And so that becomes very important about holding those investment properties in either a limited liability company or a partnership or something of that nature.
And that's something, I deal with real estate every day, and that's something that, I think a lot of my investors I have to go back to, because for me to be able to advise them and educate them and say, hey, pick up the phone, call Craig, because this is something that you might not have even thought of.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things that until it happens and it's too late to put the planning in place,
right, you're right.
A lot of people are like, well, I don't want to complicate my structure. But all of a sudden, your personal bank account is being attached for something that's related to your investment real estate. The second area that we see is a lot of people are reluctant to sell property and trigger the capital gains.
Right.
And so we can help them learn how to restructure their properties through 1031 exchanges or through using a charitable partner to either defer or wipe out those potential capital gains taxes when they're ready to switch properties around.
Oh my gosh. I want to go a little bit further into partnering up with a nonprofit. By the way, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Las Vegas Real Estate, The Insider's Edge. I'm your host, Lianna Alvarez, here on KLAV, 1230 AM radio, the talk of Las Vegas. Craig Stone, estate planning attorney here in Las Vegas, just giving us huge information. How valuable is it to be able to have a conversation with an estate planning attorney for an hour and not be billed? The information you're getting, applied to, or you're listening, is huge. Regardless of age, type of investments, estates, etc. We talked a little bit before, and you mentioned partnering up with a nonprofit. How does that apply? Like what?
Well, sometimes if we're wanting to sell a piece of property, selling it outright will cause those taxes to occur immediately. There are a couple of techniques, either what's called a charitable lead trust or a charitable remainder trust, where we find a charitable partner that will absorb some of that tax hit for us, because charities are nonprofits. They don't pay income taxes. And so we can take that same property, drop it into a specialized trust, then sell the property, and we have to share some of the proceeds or the income stream with the charity, but the tax benefits for avoiding the taxes or the capital gains taxes offset the loss of cash flow that we would have given to the charity. And it is a beautiful way to build in a part of your legacy if you've got a favorite cause anyway.
Right.
If you're a person who is going to make a gift or a donation to your favorite cause, regardless, and you got a piece of property that you want to sell, why not mix the two and achieve both results?
And then you're actually giving that money back to the community towards a cause that you love versus it going to government taxes.
Yeah, I tell clients that, the government is a charity too, but once you give your tax money to them, they get to decide where they're going to use it instead of you getting to choose the charity of your choice.
And this is a perfect segue because I don't know if you're aware, but March of Dimes, I'm a big advocate. We are going to be doing the March of Dimes walk. Mary, it's April 26th. So it's April 26th, and that's, another way to give back to the community. Maybe individuals don't have the ability to donate financially, donate your time.
Right.
Give back to the community. We talk about that inner synergy. It does, pay it forward because it does come back.
Yes. And there's another way that you can do that too. We have some clients that they either don't have children or family members that they want to leave the real estate to, and so they will structure what's called a life estate, which is they get to keep and use the property for the rest of their life, but when they pass away by beneficiary deed or otherwise, it goes to the charity, and that can give you a current income tax benefit while you're alive, and the charity gets a back-end benefit at a later point.
Oh my gosh, such valuable, wonderful information. Again, thinking outside the box, educating you all that are listening so that, you can identify, and really you do have to sit down and say, okay, what's my plan? What's my goal going forward, and how can we implement it?
Yeah.
Some of this information may be a lot to take in, but that's even more reason to sit down, have a meeting with Craig so that he can, you can go to him and say, this is what's important to me. How do we implement it?
Right. And that's one of the things that I try to get clients to think beyond today, whether it's a business asset, whether it's a real estate property, of what happens to this asset during the transition. And I'll give you an example. I have a client that owns multiple parcels of vacant land. He is the epitome of the dirt person. He loves his real estate. However, his children do not.
Oh.
And so we have talked to him about, well, what is this going to look like? Because you've got this real estate portfolio that you love working on, but the children really don't have an interest. And so what is his exit strategy for how that is going to either be translated to the children or liquidated before he passed away? And, when I had that conversation with him, he said, I never thought about that. I just like playing with my real estate portfolio, and I never thought about whether it would be a blessing or a curse or a burden on my children to manage this stuff once I'm no longer here.
Right. And I know I had that exact situation in our family where, there was some dirt land out in the middle of nowhere, as a lot of Nevada is.
Yes.
And it was like, okay, well, what do we do with it now? It's something that we hold on to, but, what do you do with it? So really kind of having that plan of action. I love real life stories because I think they really, offer everybody that's out there a way to really identify with estate planning. And I know there's been, some recent stories that you and I have talked about of celebrities that have had, an experience with poor estate planning.
Yes. It's fascinating that no matter what our wealth levels, estate planning either succeeds or fails. And the ones that fail are the ones we hear about in the popular media.
And they're usually a big fail.
And they're usually a big fail. And so you have things like the Philip Seymour Hoffman estate, where he didn't update his estate plan for almost 14 years.
Well,
I'm sorry, in 9 years. But he had 2 daughters born in that time, and they weren't named in his estate plan.
yeah, and I know that same thing happened with Heath Ledger,
And yes,
where he didn't update his daughter, and then it became, a family feud.
absolutely. And that's one of the speaking engagements that I sometimes do is estate planning learned from the mistakes of the celebrities.
Right, because those are the big things we hear in the media, and it's not even somebody that didn't do estate planning, but those individuals, those 2 perfect examples, you do the estate planning, you think it's said and done, you tuck it away, and you don't keep it updated, how often should you go back and kind of, check it?
Well, that's one of the issues is a lot of times people look at estate planning as a one-time static event. I did it, I stick it in the safe deposit box, and it's good. But unfortunately, our life continues to move on and continues to change. So we tell clients that they need to review their estate plan no less often than every 3 to 5 years, and absolutely when they have had a major life change, a birth, a death, a divorce, a lawsuit, a substantial windfall. We need to run what we call a fire drill to see if the existing estate plan is still going to work.
Wonderful. Craig, I mean, this is such great information. And I'm not just saying that. This is stuff I'm even learning a lot. And for all of you out there, with Craig being, a partner here on the show, an affiliate, he is going to offer everybody a free half-hour consultation,
Yes.
which is a $200 value. I mean, how often do you get free legal advice? Not very often. So for anybody that's out there that's listening, text message the word consult to 702-497-3730. Again, that's 702-497-3730. The text message the word consult or give me a call. We'll get that set up. It's a huge value. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with the Lianna Alvarez Show, Las Vegas Real Estate, The Insider's Edge, here on KLAV, 1230 a.m., the talk of Las Vegas.